I'm Victor Margiotta, and this is the Community Show. I am blessed to have Jim Killoran on the show. He works with Habitat for Humanity, has been with them for almost 30 years, and he's an angel. He's a saint.
No.
And, you know, this is what the show is all about. It's the community show. It's about community. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. You know, you need to get involved. You need to be helping out the situation. I hate the term, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, but, you know, it's true. You have to get out. You can't complain about what's wrong. You have to, if you know what's wrong, then get out and do something about it. Make a difference. And this is what Jim does on a daily basis. He works very hard. He wants people to be in a livable home. He doesn't want people to suffer. He's a humanitarian. He's somebody that wants to help, that sees the problem and says, hey, let's do something about it. And, you know, this is what this show is about, and I want to thank Jim for coming on. Thanks for coming on.
No, it's a great honor, and enjoyed hearing about your family, and you know, everything about the show is family and intergenerational New York. Really helping every kid out there to be able to learn to build and grow food, and allowing New Yorkers to be able to stay here and live here and afford to live here. Mm-hmm. And that's the number one economic challenge for all of our communities, you know, from Verplank to Yonkers and Mount Vernon and Mount Kisco and Yorktown. We just are on a mission. Mm-hmm. On this, our 30th anniversary, to say,
awesome. Congratulations.
Let's look at what we're doing, and let's make it happen. Yeah. And I hear about your great folks and their story, and the Paradise Restaurant. And I want 20 cream puffs before I leave. That's unbelievable. Thanks. But you know, that's the American dream, right?
It is.
And you're living it, and your folks passed it on to you, and that's the importance of where we are in New York today. That every community in Westchester and New York creates affordable ownership. Helps to create pride, helps to create taxpayers, helps to solve the problems. Education goes up. We fund the schools because we're creating taxpayers' homes that families are paying taxes. Mm-hmm. We're helping senior citizens who are burdened by these high taxes and rehabbing their homes. I mean, there's an obscenity to what I see. The conditions where people say they're neighbors and people really aren't helping each other. Yeah. And if we don't do that, and everyone helps during a disaster, God knows we're at a historic time of disasters. Yeah. Last, 6 hurricanes that have wiped out from here to Houston and Puerto Rico, where I'll go, and to Ireland and
Since you mentioned the disasters, why do they rebuild in a place that's going to, you know, a year from then, it can happen again?
That's a multi-million, billion-dollar question, right? And I've talked to FEMA people when I was helping in a disaster, and they said, Jim, if it was my choice, I wouldn't even rebuild here.
Right.
So, you know, people love to live by the water, but if you're going to live by the water, then design something like our above the water, flood design homes, stronger. You know, there are models across the world that allow, but a lot of times once the economy picks up and the money is there, we build quick, we build cheap, and you know, you're gambling the dice all the time, and you're gambling against Mother Nature, which you'll never win. And so, you know, we were talking about Rome and the sewers and the intelligence of building that, or building you know, the pyramids, or building the bridges that we see. I mean, I'm always amazed at that. Well, we have to build in a green way, a healthy way, that's going to be for intergenerations. And a lot of times that is money dictates development, dictates, and we talked about term limits and political contributions being on a limited basis. That alone would allow community to grow again organically, not from a developer in from the outside. And I'm nothing against development. I have a lot of developers that I know. But community development is really making your citizens that live in your community the priority, and making sure that everyone goes to bed at night in a good home and has the ability to contribute. And that's what we've lost in this frantic down county high-rises going up everywhere and saying, well, it's going to be good for the small businesses. No one's guaranteed any taxes going down, and none of our kids can afford it, or seniors, or working people. So there's a disconnect between what their gobbledygook is and what's really prudent for what can happen. You know, it's a time where the economy is good, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are more homeless in Manhattan now, while the economy is booming and $70 million condos are on the top of buildings. I mean, there's a disconnect between a good economy and having
providing for
such extremes. And so, and no one is exempt from this. We're all, like, why I'm honored to be on the show is the faith community. You know, walk the talk. Whether you worship Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, get out of the pews, get away from the beamer and the pulpit, and come out and do a good mitzvah or a Christian charity project and help a neighbor. We have the ability to end. Homeless in Westchester County shouldn't even exist. I mean, it really is a slap in the face of intelligence. If I can't build a veterans home in your town, should you have a right to raise the flag on Memorial Day? I mean, these are the questions that we grew up in, and we talked about your folks and my aunts and uncles, and my three uncles fought in World War II, and you know, it's kind of a disconnect. My assistant is a wounded warrior, and yet couldn't afford to live in New York, where she grew up in New Rochelle, because it's just impossible to afford to live here. This is the unintelligent development of the history of living here that we've seen, where we're creating a lot of talk that we care, but the working person and family and the seniors who want to live here for the rest of their life are getting burdened. It shouldn't be hard, it should be easier. And then the other piece of, you know, growing real community is what you have in front of me. I mean, you know, I'm coming for some butternut squash questions. That's the biggest butternut squash I've seen. You know, and I, you know, every kid, every person should learn to grow food and pick up a hammer. I mean, let's look at cancer. Shouldn't it be gone by now? I mean, you know, chemo started in 1950. 2017, chemo is still the operative term, and so where's all that money? I mean, here's healthy food, right?
Eating right, exercising.
And a spiritual life too, right? We talked about that. But really growing healthy food, learning to grow, getting dirty, picking up a hammer. The cell phone, when in Puerto Rico, when it all went out, no one had communication. Well, if people don't know how to use their hands to help their own home, or help their own neighborhood, or help in Houston, or help in Hurricane Sandy, these are the things that we threw the baby out with the bathwater. And part of it is the marketing of the Apple, the computer. We all have to be on it 24/7. And I mean, you're a real person. You're not a computer. I can't believe this. Because most of my staff workers want to sit on the computer most of the day. I say, we're getting out. This is not growing and the health effects. Now they're saying people sitting all day in front of the computer is worse. Heart attacks are happening, and that study is now. But I don't think Bill Gates or Zuckerberg, you'll ever see him show the study on what Facebook and the internet has done to the quality of life for us. And that doesn't mean don't have a cell phone or don't have
like
social media, Habitat WC, Instagram, and Twitter, right? Doesn't mean, or at Jim Killoran, but it does mean that, you know, this is real food. It's not genetically grown. It's healthy from compost from your hands, that you could eat it without having to pay $1, and you grew your own food. That's what people did for years, up until after World War II. And then somehow we just thought that our sign of success, that the emperor didn't have to know how to sew anymore. Remember, my sisters all sewed, and my mother, God rest her soul,
Well, take a minute and talk about your family, because I think it's important to know a little bit.
Well,
of your
family is
history.
everything. I mean, my father, my grandfather worked the sewers and lived next to the railroad bridge, and my other grandfather was a policeman who walked the beat with 9 kids, and a typical Irish Italian makeup of the European wave that came to this country through Ellis Island for the American dream, and as many people come over the borders, and bendiciones para mis amigos and amigas quien habla español, and quiero los sueños en un dueño hogar, the dreams of owning a home, right? Yeah. We all came and continue to come.
Sure.
So, we lived in that house, and then I lived on a 3-decker, like Yonkers, the 3rd floor.
Too.
Did they? Yeah. So, and my mother said, I brought coal up the stairs. You have to listen to that. And rightly so. And then now that place where I grew up is a parking lot, which is classic. Put up a parking lot. But now, and I'm from Worcester, Mass, and kind of like Yonkers. That's why I feel an affinity to Yonkers, because it's an industrial city, and saying, my goal in Yonkers, what we're building, veterans homes and building out neighborhoods, is to bring back where we could make these tables and manufacture them, and blue jean insulation and solar panels, creating jobs along with home ownership. And that's what all of our towns and cities were. So, I got 2 great sons. My wife passed away of cancer.
I'm sorry.
And my sons are my heroes, 26 and 27. I asked permission for them to speak to them. They're bigger than me and stronger than me, but just really blessed by them. And they were with me filling Mariano Rivera's church, his wife's church, with relief supplies from Puerto Rico, as we unloaded the truck. And after all the press went, I was so proud that they continued. They're there, and we all continue to load like 6 truckloads of supplies. And so, they get it, and they didn't kind of live the life of a spoiled child. Yeah. They had no choice. I wasn't going. I didn't have a lot of money because I chose a life to help others. So, but we're blessed to be there, and one's married now, and will bless us with grandkids, both of them. So, it's an honor to just help someone, be it a person in Ossining who's boiler broke for 2 years, or a veteran in Eastchester who for 3 years has had no running water.
Oh my gosh.
In Scarsdale with a roof falling in Rye with no toilet. I mean, this is no, it can't be happening in Westchester.
No, I know.
There are seniors watching this who need help with our Brush with Kindness program.
Okay, talk about that.
The Brush with Kindness is where we'll rehab a home. And so you got a choice. Am I going to pay the taxes? Am I going to eat? They say eat or heat. Am I going to, how am I going to live? And so the woman in Millwood died outside her home in her car. She had no heat, she had no food. And that house got turned over to us 4 years later. But, this is in our community. This isn't Nicaragua or Tennessee. This is right here. So I have groups like Hen Hud, your alma mater.
Yep.
Kids want to go out and build, and the best thing I did 25 years ago was to get the high school kids to go out and build. Yeah. And now they're my lawyers or teachers and leaders, and they're still building with me. So we want to bring it back. I want CEOs out there who are going to be my high school leaders, learning to make the furniture, and learning to make the juice garden and the butternut squash haven that we have.
I've always said people really want to volunteer.
Yes,
but it's
no
not,
question.
I mean, I've gone on to volunteer.org and stuff like that, and it's not as easy. It's almost like they need to be taken by the hand.
If someone says, I'll bring you 500 volunteers. Yesterday we had 100 volunteers from Resurrection Church. That's a lot of logistics on our part. We had 300 last week. I want 3,000 a week. I mean, remember, we're in a county of 1 million people, not to think that at some point, now that's a lot of logistics, but you help the community guys, say, okay, you help me with 5 people, you help Joe with painting, Sally, my senior leader from Head HUD, you help, the gig, you take 5 people over here, You put in the blue jean insulation that you learned how to do this year.
Yeah.
So, and then when there's a disaster comes, I create leaders all the time. Barrett is a leader who's here from CNR, who's awesome, and she knows, and others, and say, come on, let's do it. And so, so the logistics is a challenge, and a lot of, but we make it real. And we also have our recycling store, our restore.
Yeah.
I have retirees who volunteer, who help me run Habitat all the time. You know, like one of the jokes from one of my Rusty Nails persons is he said, you know, my wife said, I married you for life, but not lunch every day. so she said, go help Habitat.
There you go.
And he's been with me for 12 years.
Awesome.
Every Tuesday and Thursday we have a group that builds. In the restore, we have a group that runs the stores, and we want to start 5 more of those, part of our 30th anniversary.
Well, mention the website so people can go
HabitatWC.org, Habitat for Humanity of Westchester, Facebook, Habitat WC, Instagram, and Twitter.
All right.
And we're constantly sending stuff out so that, and it helps. Tonight at 6 o'clock, Mondays, I have volunteer orientation. I'm going to spread those out throughout the county. And then on this, our 30th anniversary, I need you to be a leader for your local community. I want leaders in Burplank, in Peekskill, in Yorktown, in Briarcliff, in Scarsdale, in Rye, every town and city, creating local teams of people. And I've had numerous ones all over the county over the years. But really to take that model and to help people really be building kind of the wall raising in their own town or city. I have a guy that is a great guy, 50 years young, retired, did very well in the financial world. He said, Jim, I need to help you. He gives me 3 days a week.
Awesome.
No, I mean, you know, because none of it goes with us. No millionaire was saved in the World Trade Center building.
Nope.
No, a doctor couldn't save the billionaire that I was honored to know the family, no matter how much he tried to get the best doctors. If we don't help each other in New York, and it's, FEMA said I gave $9 million of volunteer labor to the Rockaways. I've given $2 million worth of volunteer labor to that neighborhood I worked with yesterday and made it what we call NMU, No More Ugly. Nothing, no kid should be with a substandard education or without a home in Westchester County, period, unacceptable, case closed. And if this is a clarion call to every politician, to every faith leader, to every communitarian and person who say they care, we're on the move. We got a hammer and a garden and a paintbrush for you. And
now it's funny that you started off with the building, but then all this other stuff.
Well, part of it is right
because
it's been it's all intertwined, right? Poverty should have been ended by now. Okay, the war on poverty, right? You and I saw it. It should have been gone by now. I could have built everyone a house and a vacation house with all the money that we pay. I'm not against taxpayers' money, but let's see, we're perpetuating poverty. For some of the programs in this county that get money. In the city, $5,000 to help a homeless person. That's 3-4 of our mortgages. I mean, I want to end poverty. It should be ended. Not perpetuate. I'm not worried about a job. I mean, if I go out of my job because I've got everyone home, praise God. You know,
well,
there's
I have
enough.
a friend that's a carpenter. He says, I'm always working my way out of a job. When the job ends, it's over. Now you got to go get another job.
Right. Well, we love carpenters. You know, I just had a carpenter come up from the union and said, Jim, he came to our benefit for Puerto Rico. He said, I want to help you. I want to get my union help. So, you know, everyone should learn to build again and to grow food. And if you do that, whether you're PhD, GED or PhD, I mean, the head of the President's Economic Council worked with me for 9 years, sheetrocking he'd come out once every summer. You know, he said, I made my money for college by sheetrocking. You know, President Carter has volunteered up until 90, and he still does it. You know, I just buried a 102-year-old World War II veteran who up until we had his 100th birthday party, he said, I got to go help the elderly. He'd bring food to the 80-year-old.
Nice.
I got John Gallagher from Ossining who volunteers with us. He goes to Sing Sing for a weekend retreat, but he helped to create the local committee where we did 10 homes and is a communitarian friend of Sandy. So we're on a mission. We were just warming up for 30 years, Westchester. All right, so either turn away and run away or else I'm going to expect you to pick up a hammer, a paintbrush, or make a donation.
Well, the camaraderie alone, to get to know people.
Listen, you don't know if you're next to the CEO or the Christian or the Jew or the person here sent by a judge. Building a home like that Quaker picture, like the Amish, this one big kibbutz, this is what we do all the time. Yeah. And we have fun. I'm very selfish. I love to have fun. I like to see people happy. Definitely. I've been doing it. I've seen people change the worst neighborhoods in New York, including myself, and drive by homes and drive by where there were once drugs and see neighborhoods be transformed. And we can do it again. The next generation needs hope, and they can do it with a hammer and with helping. And they know that. There's a real, it's a movement of youth, whether you're 90 or whether you're 9, that we can rebuild and do it in a way that's not virtual, but that's real. Well, and that's something that really is important. We bring people together because people are all together on a screen now.
Well, that's the joy that I experienced growing up in a big family, and the family parties, and there was everybody from a baby to a 90-year-old person. But everybody was happy, and I never felt like, I never want to be old, or thank God I'm not. My
mother had 9 brothers and sisters, and we had all the cousins to be together, right? Yeah. We're community in Westchester, and a lot of communities. I love Ossing, I love Peekskill, where we're doing the show from, but other towns, the day the kids graduate high school, they sell the property, and they're gone to a state with less taxes, because they do it for the educational. Yep. But if you are you real? The other thing is, I say we have 1 million people in Westchester. Half of them go into New York every day, early in the morning, come back late at night. Okay, you might have done well in college, but that doesn't seem too bright to me if you're spending most of your life commuting. Yep. Right?
Never even in your house.
And with the let's do it here. Nothing gets through New York City, but it's time to stop the transit-oriented development and sending our talent and our millennials into the city. Yeah. When we have 1 million people here, we have the resources, the wealth, the talent, the intelligence to stop. Nothing against Metro North, but they've got our money forever. and come on. Yeah. Nothing against TOD developers, but TOD means just transiting, you're sending them in, and you're not creating taxpayer dollars, and you're not creating an intergenerational Westchester. So this becomes a challenge that I wave goodbye to people early in the morning at 6:30. I see them come back dead at 9 at night, and if they see their kids, maybe. But what about stopping and not going in and saying, wait, let me develop that business here. Let me develop the Wall Street investment company here. Let me develop. It's lunacy, really. When sometimes you have to stop and say, wait, we're spending everything into Manhattan. Their taxes are nothing, and ours, and it's time to kind of stop that a little bit. And that's part of our mission, because as I look at an intergenerational Westchester, no one thinks that everyone's going to, any of our grandkids will ever live in Westchester. It's not even on the brain thought, which isn't an intelligent way of developing a long-term Westchester, or giving huge tax breaks to corporations where most of their employees live in Connecticut, because they know they're not going to pay the taxes. Or this is the thing. And the other thing which you and I talked about is we've created a system that, the forefathers and mothers would die and did die as successful business people for the sake of liberty, right? Term limits, campaign contributions being limited.
Yeah, they're lobbying.
Do it on the, change this. We're the #1 state that people are leaving, and we're the highest tax county in the country. Everything should be perfect. We know that isn't real. I mean, it's really painful for me when I see a kid shot or have substandard education or substandard housing here. I mean, what am I in that's unintelligent planning on all parts. And so we are a mission and a ministry, and but St. Francis said, go forth and preach, and only if you have to use words. We're a ministry of action, and so that's what's made us the #1 builder in the country today, 14th in the world. Awesome. In less than 40 years of ownership. Hardest place for anyone to own is in New York. We're here to change that, and we need everyone to get involved.
I went on the
HabitatWC.
website,
Yes.
and the first thing was donate money, donate
Right.
money.
Well, we need it.
But
that's how we
you
exist.
can't operate without it.
We
There's
can't.
no two ways
There's no ways. I had a company call and say, "Oh, we want to volunteer." I said, "Okay, do any of you know how to build?" No. Well, I'm going to have to pay my supervisors to teach you build. I'm going to have to buy the supplies. I'm going to make sure you have an amazing, fun experience. Everybody is a philanthropist in this world. Whether you have $1 in your pocket or $1 million, you can all give, and it's still the widow's mite that is powerful. So. We need donations. That's how we built this infrastructure, this disaster infrastructure. My staff, it's a labor of love. I mean, they do it 7 days a week. And, they're not getting pensions. They're not working till the second on the clock. We're going 7 days a week, and there's nothing wrong with pensions. Don't get me wrong, but we're on a mission, and when you're on a mission, it means you're looking beyond what the job description is and how do you get it done. And that's the creativity of looking at every neighborhood or designing different and not excluding the ability. Let's use West Harrison in purchase is 2/3 the size of Manhattan.
Sorry.
2/3 the size of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Can't I build a veterans home there?
Right.
Can't I build a beautiful, if we can design a cell phone, can't we design the most beautiful condos co-ops in the world here with the talent we have? There's no question. With the talent, throw that gauntlet down in front of any of our friends or any of the educational or any of the CEOs or companies. So the challenge is the opportunity. In a way, you look at Puerto Rico, they've suffered the disaster, New Orleans. How do you, here we didn't build our infrastructure. How do we rebuild for future generations a New York that's going to be greener, that's going to be healthier, that's going to have our kids back to basics using 10 fingers so they won't fall off for texting, but they'll be strong and they'll be really helping one another and not saying, well, we're leaving after I leave high school anyway. And that's the gift of what I have every day of my life and have had for all of you. I've had thousands of people in Westchester help volunteer with me, contribute, help to come out and say, how does this work? And volunteer. I mean, to give a day of your life to me, what a privilege, honestly. It is a privilege and almost a sacred duty of me to say, wow, here's a person giving their life to help someone else.
Can't beat it.
My life is amazing because of that. I'm just, I always say I'm the weakest link in the chain, but my gift is to know that everyone has a gift. And if we pull that together, we can orchestrate a better Westchester in a place that everyone can have a home and a beautiful home. And our taxes will go down because we're creating ownership and not perpetuating poverty. And so dreams become reality. Yesterday I was in Peekskill. One of our families owns a Habitat home. Successfully now overseeing 60 employees as a carpenter, but amazing. That didn't happen overnight. Deshaun Watson, Heisman Trophy winner, grew up in a Habitat home. Sylvia just graduated Lehman College. That's the second generation we're seeing, right? Lillian paid off her mortgage. Right. So anyway, all those things
you're
are...
You're going to have to come back on the show.
Listen.
Is that all right? We'll schedule it.
Maybe we'll get you out to a site.
All right.
You'll show me your garden and we'll raise a wall together.
And we'll make some
And I'd be
cream
honored
puffs.
to come out to the show after I go to the Paradise restaurant and have a cream puff.
In Verplank. So
In
come on
Verplank.
down to the Paradise.
Absolutely.
Get involved.
Thank you
go
for
on the
having me.
website and see how you can get involved. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. This is Victor Margiotta, The Community Show. Thanks.